He thought he was untouchable. Inside a dimly lit bar, the roar of laughter drowned out the whispers of unease. A biker, heavy with arrogance, made the mistake of targeting the quietest person in the room, a modest woman who had simply walked in for a drink. With one cruel gesture, he ripped her shirt, certain the crowd would cheer. But the room didn't stay loud for long. When the hidden mark beneath her clothes was revealed, the air itself seemed to freeze. No one expected what came next. It was an ordinary Friday night at a roadside bar tucked between stretches of highway. The smell of cheap beer clung to the air, mixed with cigarette smoke and the faint echo of rock music playing through worn speakers. Regulars gathered in clusters, truck drivers, locals, and a group of leather-clad bikers who had claimed the corner booths. Their laughter was sharp, their presence dominating. Amidst them, she entered quietly, a woman dressed modestly, shoulders slightly hunched as though trying to blend into the walls. She wasn't there for trouble, only for a moment of calm away from the world. But calm never lasts long in places ruled by those who mistake volume for power. The biker who noticed her was no stranger to intimidation. He thrived on the gasps, the uneasy glances, the false bravado that silence could not mask. His friends leaned in as he swaggered across the room, setting his sights on her as though she were prey. At first, the crowd smirked, expecting harmless teasing, but something darker lingered in his eyes, and in the way his hand curled into fists, it was clear this would not end with words. The bar, unaware, stood on the brink of witnessing something it would never forget. The biker's boots thudded against the wooden floor, each step drawing attention. He loomed over her, casting a shadow that seemed to swallow her entire presence. She didn't flinch, not at first. Perhaps she thought ignoring him would make him move on. But arrogance thrives on silence, and he took it as weakness. In one swift, cruel motion, his hand clutched at her shirt. The sound of fabric tearing cut through the bar louder than the jukebox. Gasps rippled across the room. The woman stumbled back, clutching at herself, her eyes wide not with fear but with a different, steadier kind of fire. The biker grinned, feeding off the shock, expecting laughter from his companions. Yet the chuckles were short-lived. For beneath the torn fabric, across her shoulder and arm, a mark came into view, a tattoo, sharp and unmistakable, inked in precision and pride. The eagle, globe, and anchor, the emblem of the United States Marine Corps. The room changed in an instant. The rowdy energy shifted to stunned silence. Patrons who had moments earlier cheered now exchanged uneasy glances. Even his fellow bikers leaned back, their smirks fatting. Because this wasn't just ink, it was identity, it was history, and it was power. The biker, suddenly aware of the weight of his mistake, faltered. He tried to laugh it off, to mask the sudden stiffness in his stance. But his eyes betrayed him, darting from the tattoo to the crowd that no longer seemed to be on his side. Whispers grew, Marine Corps. She served. The questions hung in the air, unanswered but heavy with consequence. The woman didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The tattoo spoke louder than any threat could. It carried stories of sacrifice, of battles endured, of strength forged in silence. She simply straightened her posture, shoulders squared, no longer shrinking in the corner. The biker, for the first time that night, felt small. The silence pressed down like a storm. Every eye in the bar locked on the two of them, the predator who thought he held power, and the woman whose mark revealed a truth greater than his arrogance. The biker's hands twitched as though deciding between apology and escalation, but the weight of that emblem burned into his vision. He realized he wasn't facing just a woman he could intimidate. He was facing a Marine, someone trained to endure, to fight, to never yield. The crowd's energy shifted fully now. What was once passive amusement turned into a wall of silent judgment. His own crew avoided his gaze, unwilling to support the cruelty that had backfired so spectacularly. And she didn't move toward him, didn't strike or shout. She simply stood tall, scarred cloth falling from her shoulder, tattoo gleaming under the flickering neon light. That quiet defiance cut deeper than any fist. The biker's bravado drained from him. His smirk collapsed into a grimace, and in a moment that would be retold again and again in that bar, he backed away. His boots, which had carried arrogance minutes earlier, now scraped against the floor in retreat. The bar had frozen, but it wasn't fear. It was respect, not for him, but for her. For the silent reminder that strength isn't always loud and that true power often lies beneath the surface, waiting, unspoken, until it's forced into the light. As the biker slunk back into the corner, the bar released a collective breath. The jukebox played on, but the music felt different now, background noise to the story that had just unfolded. The woman adjusted her torn shirt, head held high. She didn't look at him again. She didn't need to. The message had been delivered, louder than fists or fury could have managed. She walked to the counter, calm, steady, and ordered a drink as though the confrontation had been nothing more than a passing shadow. The rest of the bar shifted uneasily in their seats. For many, it was a moment of reckoning. They had watched cruelty unfold, some even entertained by it, until the truth snapped them into silence. It was a lesson, carved not in words but in the stunned faces and the weight of a single tattoo. The biker never regained control of the night. His laughter, once dominant, was absent. His friends gave him no sympathy. In that moment, he wasn't a leader. He was a cautionary tale. The story spread, how arrogance turned to ashes in the face of respect earned on battlefields far from that dimly lit bar. And for those who were there, it became more than a story. It was a reminder that the quiet ones carry histories you cannot see, and that underestimating them can change everything. Because sometimes the most powerful answer isn't shouted or fought, it's revealed. And when the hidden mark came into the light, the bar learned a lesson it would never forget. Would you have laughed with the crowd, or gone silent with respect?